Sweetopie relies on fan support from people like you. If you enjoy my stories and have the generosity to do so, please consider supporting me monthly on Patreon. Alternatively, you can tip me on coffee for a single tip of $3. You would really help me and the channel out, since we all know bills need to be paid. Thank you for your consideration. Also, please remember to like the video, comment something down below, and share the video around, as that improves my standing in the YouTube algorithm. And now, please, enjoy the show. When Albedo was awoken by a frantically knocking night of Favonius, he knew that today was a special day. It had been deep in the night, and when it had been the alchemist's intention to simply check up on Sucrus and Timaeus, he had been convinced by his assistants to take a night off. How they managed to twist his own worldview so perfectly to make him forego his formulas and experiments in Dragonspine for 2 entire days was quite a mystery to him. So when he opened the door to his lab, he already was quite frustrated. An emotion that quickly turned into intrigue as he patiently listened to the knight's plea. The alchemist was needed, not as a scientist, but as a doctor. It was well known that true master alchemists, despite their dedication to science, were also talented apothecaries. As soon as the knight finished his ravings, Albedo had made a choice. Dragonspine needed to wait for a few more days. Grabbing a pouch filled with medicine, he began a confident strut towards the headquarters of the Favonius Knights. As expected, all lights were on. He could see the silhouettes of people. Some were pacing about, while others just stood there, probably awaiting his arrival. Quietly he entered, only to be met with acting Grandmaster Jean. She was completely besides herself, claiming to have never seen something like this before. But Albedo just nodded, leaving the poor acting Grandmaster behind. She, however, sighed in relief, knowing the alchemist would be able to handle this. Deeper and further down the depths of the Favonius headquarters walked the alchemist. There in the darkest cellar was the Everjail. A somber place. Moist walls, light only coming from a handful of torches. The Everjail was a place created to interrogate prisoners and to keep creatures from the abyss under lock and key for as long as necessary. But his goal wasn't some lowly abyss mage. He went around a corner and was met with the isolation cell. Albedo sighed. What a horrible treatment. And placed the small pouch of ingredients next to the cell's door. A heavy iron plate with a small window on it. Taking its nub, he slid it open, allowing him to see into the cell without actually opening the door. There on the ground was you. He narrowed his eyes. The alchemist had seen you before. A hunter from that village in Volvendom. The scientist, however, could not recall its name, which frustrated him a little. Too preoccupied he was by your position to fully focus on it. You were on your knees, your back bent at an impossible angle, your hands covering your eyes like you were frantically trying to gouge them out. He also noticed a faint orange glow coming from beneath your fingers. How did this happen? He wondered. You were completely motionless, like a statue. His hand moved over to the handle, and as he pressed down, he considered his options and his approach. Albedo entered your cell, as quiet as a church mouse, and proceeded to sit down on the prisoner bunk bed in front of you, his pouch in hand. From there he just admired your illness-stricken form. He knew as long as he didn't touch you, he was safe. But the alchemist also knew that you were most likely listening, albeit unable to respond. "Do you remember me?" Silence. He smiled. "Can you move?" Still nothing. The illness must have progressed incredibly far by now. How utterly fascinating. "I know you can hear me. I know you can still somewhat think. So, allow me to explain." He cleared his throat. "I am Albedo. I am the chief alchemist of the Knights of Favonius, and I am the only one able to understand the transformation you're going through as we speak, as not even Miss Lisa has access to the books describing it." He blinked and tilted his head. "To be honest, ever since I read about your affliction, I was incredibly interested in watching it progress past the point of no return. However, that would go against my morals, and the Knights would also never allow that." He smirked. "Plus, it helps that you're quite pleasing to the eye for a lowly hunter, correct?" His eyes darted across your body. Finally, he noticed something. Something you had worked into your belt buckle. "Huh, a geovision," he muttered. "So you're a vision bearer. Why did you not tell me this? Oh, that stupid night. I would have gotten here faster." He smiled. "You are special." Then he stood up and began walking around you, taking note of your skin. It was going quite pale, almost gray in fact. You're approaching the point of no return quickly. "What you have is called Shibiri's Curse, an incredibly rare illness contracted from the abyss, as they have stolen its source." You probably had an encounter with an abyss mage. Or maybe even a herald. He went closer to you. Without as much as grazing your skin with his own breath, he took a closer look at you. He tried to see if you still had your eyes, or if the flame of your sickness devoured them already. "Shibiri's curse," he muttered, "had its origin in alchemy. You see, Shibiri was a Favonius knight long, long ago. A brilliant swordsman, but the poor man had a quite weak immune system. He would get sick almost every week. So, Albedo returned to the bed. Crossing his legs, he continued the story. Men from Sumuro came to study him, and to study the afflictions they were about to put on him. Shibiri suffered for over a decade from the worst kinds of illnesses and pain until finally passing away. Some incredible knowledge was gained. However, something else happened as well. His vision, he was a pyro user, it began to burn. A sickly yellow flame. As all his hate and resentment from his treatment lingered inside the gemstone, post-mortem, and every person who would bear witness to the flame would go mad with the curse. As already mentioned, many years ago, the vision was stolen by the abyss. Symptoms are loss of sight, followed by loss of control over your own body, that will then take on a praying position. The one you're in right now, in fact. Then their eyes will begin to burn, leading to a pain that forces the afflicted to gouge them out. But in the empty sockets, a flame persists. A flame similar to Shabiri's vision. A flame that will then spread the curse to anyone witnessing it. However, considering the fact that the knights haven't incinerated your body means it hasn't gone this far yet. And it means I can still save you. Once again he got on his feet and opened his pouch. Inside was a small vial filled with sulfur powder, fresh diced garlic, and hilichurl feces. A grotesque-smelling concoction. He opened it and didn't even take a whiff, not even out of curiosity. The stink bomb he now held under your nose. And the reaction he was hoping for happened. After only a minute of inhaling the concoction, your body creaked like an ancient forest during a monsoon. Stiff muscles contracted and slowly your mouth opened into a silent scream. Your body bent further backwards. After sealing the vial and placing it back in his pouch, he mentally prepared himself for what he was to do next. In the position you were now in, your chest was completely exposed to him. Well, thankfully you were still wearing your hunter's gown. Albedo prepared a medicine out of various chemicals he had carried with him. He needed to inject this into your stomach. That was the hard part. Albedo perfectly knew what would happen if he so much as blew air at you. And before he stabbed you with his medicine, he gently let a thin veil fall onto your face, just in case your eyes were truly gone. It fascinated him how even the thinnest cloth was already enough to weaken the curse to a point where it was no longer contagious. Of course, as long as the veil stayed on your face. And then, as fast as he could, he jabbed the needle deep into your stomach. In the same motion, he injected the entirety of the syringe into you. However, the split second the tip so much as touched your body, it was already too late. Your arms began to contract in a robotic manner, and you began screaming like a banshee. The veil fell from your head, and the alchemist immediately began a mad sprint. As you stood up, unable to control your body, and then you ran after him, screaming your lungs out. If you would catch him, you'd force him to look into your eyes until the curse settled within him. He knew that. That's why he was so worried. As he ran through the Ever Jail, he shouted up the stairs that everyone should stay clear of the entrance hall. His heart raced. You were gaining on him. But he could not look back. As the light of the hall engulfed him, he was glad no other person was present. He dashed through the door, while you were in hot pursuit. Outside, not wasting time, he jumped the stairs onto Mondstadt's lower quarters. Then over a small hedge. And then towards the side gate that led to the small pier built at Cider Lake shore. Then he felt a pull. Something had grabbed his lab coat. Panicking, he shed the piece of clothing, and you teared it to shreds behind him, allowing Albedo just enough time to jump into the lake. He dived as deep as he could before approaching the pier's pillars. Soon after, the second splash occurred. Your splash. In the water you were writhing in agony. But the freezing lake water was enough. The yellow glow around your pained form soon stopped, and your lifeless body began to float to the surface. The alchemist took hold of your body and quickly pulled you into land, where he performed first aid. As he pushed into your chest in a quick rhythm, he huffed and spewed water. "Come on, live, he shouted. And then, a single cough. He let go. You inhaled deeply and coughed once more. Then you sat up and vomited out a whole gallon of water before falling back down, heaving. "Thank you cried. But it wasn't over just yet. The entire time, the moment you had become infected, you could see, hear, feel everything. The madness taking hold of your body, the words Albedo had spoken to you, the worry everyone around you had felt, and the ceaseless agony any sensation had on your body. Even a simple touch felt like setting your body on fire. But the more control you regained over your being, as whatever concoction had been forced into you made its way through you, a different feeling began to make itself known to you. Blushing hard, you looked away from the alchemist, your body quickly heating up. "Don't worry, that's part of the procedure. Now actually the fun part begins." "Oh no. Please, go." "I'm afraid I can't do that. I mean, think about it. If I leave you now, you just jump the next guy walking past. And wouldn't that be a shame?" Your eyes teared up, and you were panicking. But then, your heart jumped as you felt his arms under you. Albedo lifted you up. "I promise, if after this night you develop feelings for me, I will give a potential relationship a try." Why did he have to sound so analytical, so cold? Without you even wanting to, one of your hands snuck down into your pants. That it would be this potent, I didn't know. Honestly, I thought they were over-exaggerating. This was a side effect of healing Shibiri's curse. The flame of frenzied madness would shift position. It wasn't truly gone. It would never go away. But it was safely secured within you, unable to be seen by the naked eye. But this simple shift had a different effect. A need for a certain reproductive activity that could only be quenched through a participation in said activity for a prolonged period of time, and or, of course, medicine. Thankfully, Albedo was willing to lend you both. As you squirmed in his arms, helpless and needy, he chuckled. Such beautiful agony he had never seen before.